Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. And today is a very, very special day because today I'm going to show you my top 50 cards. I've already shown you the bottom 50, and now I'm going to show you number 1 through number 25. And this is the last one that I showed you. That's the number 25 on my list. And this is the Roy Campanella. This is number 25 on the list. And this one is a 1952 Topps High Series. This one is inauthentic because it is a minimum size card. And I know the history in this card. This was a small find that happened a few years ago in eastern Pennsylvania, I think western Pennsylvania. And it was a series of high numbers, 52 Topps high numbers that were virtually untouched for many, 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 many years. And this was in there. There were, I tell the story in one of my videos, but there were 87 total high number cards found in the lot. And 13 of the cards ended up being minimum size. The Campanella, and there are some commons also. But anyway, this is from that lot, beautifully centered high number Roy Campanella. This comes from the High Series, number 314. And it's a single print version of the High Series. So it's a very rare card to find, especially centered and in this kind of condition with the sharp corners. Even though it is authentic, it's still going to be in my top 25 cards. So moving now to number 24, and that's the 1965 Mickey Mantle in a near mint 7. And you know, as I told you, this top tier of my collection, there's a lot of mantles in here because I'm a mantle collector. So you're going to see a lot of the Mick in there. And this is a beautiful example of a 1965 and a near mint 7. It's a little bit off-centered, left to right, but it's beautiful top to bottom. So that's the Mickey Mantle, 1965 Mantle in a near mint 7. That's number 24. Moving on, number 23 is Ty Cobb. And this is the Ty Cobb T205. And it's a beautiful Ty Cobb. It's also inauthentic because this one is slightly trimmed on the top here. But it's a beautiful example. You're not going to find too many in that kind of condition. And if it wasn't in the authentic grade, it'd be a very expensive card. It would definitely be in the top 10 of my collection. But it's a beautiful example of the Ty Cobb T205. And there's the back. This is the first year that they actually had the statistics in the back for the players. So you can see, you know, his stats here. Incredible player. And this one has the Piedmont back. There's different versions of it. This is the more common version. And again, this one is a little slight haircut there, but it's a beautiful example of the 1911 Piedmont Champions, Piedmont cigarettes, the T205 Piedmont Ty Cobb. And that one is number 23. Number 22 is Joe DiMaggio, Joe D. The Joe DiMaggio in 1949 Leaf. That's card number 1, and that's an excellent 5. Tough grade for these cards because this is the number 1 card in the 49 Leaf set. And this is Joe DiMaggio. These are really tough to get them nicely registered and centered, but this one is a very nice example. Rated an excellent 5. The 1949 Leaf Joe DiMaggio is card number 22 in my top 25, my top 50. So the next card number 21, is the 1953 Bowman Color Mickey Mantle. This is one of my favorite cards. I love the picture on that, the pose on that. So it's a beautiful card. Let me take a good look at it. This one is a near mint 7. It does have the stain qualifier there. And that, of course, is not in the front, it's in the back of the card. This is a beautiful card. Near mint 7 example of the Mick. And the reason why it has the staining in the back, so because of that staining, it is a 7. I downgraded that, priced it as if it were a 6, kind of a 5 or a 6. And it's because it's got the wax stain. And that's normal for a lot of cards back in the day with the wax staining in there. But the card is nice. You can see the corners are nice and sharp. And it's a beautiful example of the 1953 Bowman Mickey Mantle in a near mint 7. Give you a good look at that mantle. All right. So that is card number 21. Card number 20 is another mantle, and this mantle is a 1962 mantle, and that's the 1962 mantle in a near mint 7. These cards are really tough to get in great condition due to the borders. This one has very, very nice borders, very, very little chipping, tiny bit. But it's very well centered, and that's what I liked about this card. Beautifully centered, top to bottom, left to right. It's a beautiful example of the 1962 Mickey Mantle in a near mint 7, and I'll show you the back of it here. So it's a very, very nice card. Number 200, nicely centered in the back. You can see all around well centered, and these are really tough to find because I have the whole 62 set. And I think I've shown it all, and you see how difficult it is to get these cards centered. And that's a beautiful example of the 1962 Mickey Mantle. So you'll notice a lot of these are going to have the old label, and that's because I graded them many, many, many years ago. So moving on, that was number 20. Now we're going to move into number 19. So we're getting close to the top 10. So number 19 is from 1888, Goodwin Champions, Buffalo Bill rookie card in the X-Mint 6, the highest graded example of the Buffalo Bill rookie card that exists. This is in a PSA 6. Buffalo Bill, the champion of the Wild West, of the Wild West Hunters. It's a beautiful card. Oops, sorry, that's a beautiful card. This is one of the top cards in the Goodwin Champions set. And this is basically what you would call a playing era card of Buffalo Bill. This was when he was still active, doing shows in the circus, doing his trick shooting and everything else that he did. And this was a playing days card of Buffalo Bill. And there he is. So that one is an X-Mint 6. That is the highest graded Buffalo Bill card. And there it is. I'll show you the back. The back is a checklist. They all have the checklist in the back. And you can take a good look at the checklist back there. So this one is number 19 on my list. of the top 50 cards in my collection, and it's a rare Buffalo Bill. There's less than 50 known to exist of that card in all registries, and that's the highest graded example. So I'm going to move on now to number 18. And number 18 is my first, let's see here, yep, number 18 is my first Babe Ruth card. And this is the 1922 E121 American Caramel Babe Ruth in a good 2, and it's the photo montage version. This photo montage version, now this one is in a 2, so it has creases, but it's very well centered. It's a well-loved card, but it's the Babe. It's Babe Ruth in his playing days in 1922. And what I like about this one, it's one of my favorites from the E121 series. There's a few of them there. One of them that he's holding a ball. The other one he's holding a bird. And this is the photo montage, the most popular version, that has him like a portrait. It has him, the Babe, standing up in a batting pose, and it has the Babe at home plate in the field in the background. So this is the Babe Ruth card, my first Babe Ruth that I'll show, and there's some more coming here. This is the 1922 E121 American Caramel Babe Ruth photo montage, and that is card number 18. That's card number 18 in my set. Oh, let me show you the back of this because you got to see these. Now, you know, these, of course, in those days, they didn't really make sets other than food issue sets. And, you know, Dave, Blue Jacket 66, knows all about them. He's pretty much the expert on all of these cards. So, you know, these were produced by the American Caramel Company. And there were 120 cards of the leading baseball stars. So out of 120 cards, it's, you know, they were given out with caramels, with candy. So it's very difficult, you know, out of 120 to pick this, to get this one, the montage card. You know, when you would get one per caramel, basically. You'd get one of these cards per caramel. So that's why these are so rare. And even rarer than that one is the next card here. And this one is the 1895 Mayo Cap Anson. Now, Cap Anson was one of the best players in the 1800s. Cap Anson was the first player to have 3,000 hits. He was you know, all-around batting champion. He was it back in the 1800s. He was the Babe Ruth before Babe Ruth, or before he was Ty Cobb before Ty Cobb, because he actually came before Ty Cobb. But Cap Anson, this is the 1895 Mayo Cup Plug N300 Cap Anson. It's a very rare card. I picked this up at the National. I was able to, fortunately, do a big trade. So I traded some nice stuff to get this, and I got $500 back for my trade because I did give some good cards. But this is a Cap Anson. There were only 2 at the National that I saw. One of them was a 4, and the guy wanted about $11,000 for that one. And it was, you know, didn't have the creases. But this one, you know, even with the creases and with the paper loss here, as you can see, it's a nice picture. It's an actual photo of Cap Anson, and that's what I like, that the picture is pretty clear. It does have a crease across his head there, but it's hey, you're talking a 1895 card. Very, very rare. There's less than, I think there's less than 30 of these that are out there. And the back is all black, it's just a black background. A lot of these are gonna be, you know, this one does have the creases, but a lot of these are not gonna have the back where they'll have missing black because they'll be stuck on books. So you'll see some of the black is missing, and those should get all authentic grades and stuff. So this is a good 2. 1895 Mayo Cup plug, Cap Anson, and this is card number 17. So now we're going to move on to card number 16 in my top 50. And card number 16 is another Hall of Famer. And this is a Hall of Famer that is not as well known unless you know the 1800s. And this is the 1888 Goodwin Champions, Dan Brothers, in an excellent 5. Dan Brothers, a big-time Hall of Famer, one of the top players in the 1800s. He was a big guy. He was more known for his power hitting, but he was a true Hall of Famer. If you look at his stats, and when I showed some of these cards earlier videos, I talked more in detail about it. But if you don't know who Dan Brothers is, check him out. He was one of the top players back in the day. And this is in an excellent 5. It's a beautiful condition, beautifully colored card, perfectly centered. I mean, you can't get better centering than that in an 1888 card. In the back, of course, is the checklist. They all have the checklist in the back. But a beautiful card of a big-time Hall of Famer from the 1800s, and that is Dan Brothers, first baseman for Detroit. And it was not the Detroit Tigers, it was Detroit Wolverines back in those days. But there is Dan Brothers, big-time Hall of Famer, and a 5. One of the highest graded examples of this card out there. Next one is one of the top cards in the Goodwin Champions set, along with the Buffalo Bill. And this is the top boxer in the history of boxing. And this is John L. Sullivan. And if you don't know who John L. Sullivan is, I'll tell you in a minute, but this is a near mint 7 example. These just don't exist. There is 1/8, and that's it. This is the second highest graded John L. Sullivan card from 1888. And you can see his ring here, his belt, championship belt. You can see him there in the ring. It's a nicely centered card. The back, of course, is the checklist. But John L. Sullivan was undefeated during his entire career. Nobody would beat him. Supposedly, he fought over 400 fights. He would fight in bars. He would pay people to fight him. People came from all over the world to fight him. Nobody could beat him. Nobody did beat him. He finally retired. And 4 years after retirement, he decided to come out of retirement. And he fought his last fight. And I don't remember right off the bat how many rounds it went, but it went tons of rounds, and it ended up that he ended up losing his only fight. They said he was out of shape. He shouldn't have come back. But John L. Sullivan, the first heavyweight champion of the world, they made that belt after John L. Sullivan. This is an Old Judge Gypsy Queen cigarette card, 1888 Goodwin champion John L. Sullivan. Undefeated in over 400 fights. And they created the heavyweight title for him. He was the first heavyweight champion of the world. And that was the first heavyweight championship belt that you see in that picture there. So that's John L. Sullivan in a near mint 7 from the 1888 Goodwin Champions set. So moving on next, going from 1888 to 1957. And this, since it's a higher grade, it's going to be near the top of my list. So this is a 1957 Topps Ted Williams in a near mint 8. This is a very difficult card to find in good condition. This one is almost perfectly centered, slightly left to right, perfectly centered. Beautiful card, clean card. Corners are just perfect on this thing. If it wasn't for the slight centering, it probably would have been a 9. But this is card number 1. And that's the difficulty of this one, because back in 1957, you know, card number 1 was always at the top of the list with the rubber bands. So very condition sensitive card. The 1957 Topps Ted Williams card. And so it is in a near mint 8. That puts that up to number 14 on my list. It cracks the top 15. So number 14 on my list is the 1957 Topps Ted Williams. Number 14. That was number 14. Number 13. We're back to the Mick. So number 13 on my top 50 is the 1952 Bowman Mickey Mantle in an excellent 5. Another beautiful card of the Mick is 1952, second year card, 52 Bowman. Nicely centered side to side, a little bit top to bottom, but it's a beautiful clean card, very nice sharp corners on that card. And it's got a beautiful image, nice clean image, you know, no print marks, beautiful registration. That's what I love about this card. All of these, you know, most of these I did get them graded myself. So anyway, that's the Mickey Mantle. And you can see the back of that. Second year Mantle, 1952 Bowman. And there it is. That is card number 13 on my list. The 52 Bowman Mantle in an excellent 5. Next on my list, it's one of the newest cards, and another card from the 50s, and this is the 1959 Bob Gibson, and it's number 12 on the list because it's a near mint 8. Beautiful card, slightly off-centered left to right, but sharp corners. This card looks like it just came out of the pack because it was part of my 59 set that I got from the original owner, and I sent this card to get graded. And if you want to see the rest of my 59 set, I have gotten it graded, a lot of the cards, and they're in my reveal videos. But this is a 1959 Bob Gibson. Beautiful pink background on that. Some people don't like it. I love it. And this is a high grade, near mint 8, 1959 Topps Bob Gibson. And this is number 12 on the list. And the reason why this one is difficult is because it is a high number card, and the high numbers are much more difficult to find. This one is nicely centered on the back and nicely centered in the front. So it's a difficult card, high number, and in a near mint 8, it's a valuable, it ends up being a valuable card. And that one is number 12 on my list. So, number 12, we're moving to number 11, the one that just barely missed my top 10. And I gotta tell you guys, this is, for me, the favorite card in my collection, and it didn't make the top 10. So I was a little disappointed with that, but here it is, my favorite, most beautiful card that I have, in my opinion. And that's the 1888 Goodwin Champions N162 King Kelly in a 4. Look at that card. That is just such a beautiful card. I just love that image of him with the sky. It's nicely centered. Corners are sharp. For a 4, this is a nice high-end 4, and the back is nice and clean, so you can see that. And this one has actually the lithograph on the bottom there, and that's a little. Some of them have it, some of them don't. They're not any rarer, but sometimes you see that note on the listings there. So this is the 1888 King Kelly. And if you don't know who King Kelly is, he was, in my opinion, the second best player in the 1800s. And he actually was the most famous player in the 1800s and received the most money. He was the first player to get $10,000 signing bonus. He was really a star, a true star. He was a big guy. He was a catcher. He also played outfield. But the main thing about him is that he was fast. In one game, he stole 6 bases. He invented the hook slide. He was the first one ever to use the hook slide. And they actually wrote a song about him back in the 1800s, and it was a #1 pop hit back then called Slide Kelly Slide. So Slide Kelly Slide came out as a song, and it became the first #1 hit, and it was based on King Kelly. He also performed in vaudeville acts and also did a lot of things on Broadway. And just to tell you another story on him, which I think is really the neatest thing, is if you've heard, which I'm sure you have, the Casey at the bat. King Kelly is Casey. He was Casey at the bat back in those days. So what the story on that is that the person who wrote the poem Casey at the Bat went to see King Kelly play. And when he saw him play, and apparently he struck out at a big time, he went back and he wrote the play, it was actually a play that he wrote there. So what ended up happening is that they did a Casey at the Bat, and King Kelly actually performed Casey at the Bat there. So he was a famous star, similar to the Broadway stars, like the Babe Ruth. He was very, very famous back in the 1800s. I would advise you to really do your history on that. He changed a lot of the rules of the game back in the day, where, for example, unfortunately he passed away in his 30s, so his career wasn't long, but he was a first ballot. He's a Hall of Famer for sure. And there was one incident where in the old days you can just call in and replace a player right in the middle of the game, right in the middle of the inning, and there was a pop-up. And the catcher wasn't going to get it. So King Kelly, since he was a catcher, he came out of the dugout. He called Kelly in as catcher, and he ran and he caught the ball and they got it as an out. So later they had to change the rules on that because of King Kelly. So just wanted to give you a little bit about King Kelly. If you don't know King Kelly, I advise you to. That's one that you have to really look up. He was kind of like a Mickey Mantle type in those days. So he's a drinker and everything like that and a partier, but he was with the people. And he would go to the bars and just talk to everybody, and he was one of the friendliest guys at the time. So King Kelly, my favorite card in my collection, because I just love the look of that card. But he didn't make the top 10. So the number 10 cards, here comes the top 10, guys. Number 10 card in my collection is the 1928 Harrington's Babe Ruth in a 3.5. And this is a Harrington ice cream card. And, Dave Blue Jacket 66, I think, talked about this. There's 3 versions of the ice cream cards. I think this is the Harringtons, there's a Euglings, and there's another brand there. And again, these were food issues. And this one was given to the person who purchased some ice cream at this place in 1928 at Harrington's. And the cool thing about this is a 1928 card. 1927 was the big year for the Yankees. I mean, 1927 was, the Murderers Row, Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth. So it was the best year the Yankees ever had. And then this card was produced a year after that. And because of all the notoriety and everything about the Babe, this set was a set that had, I think it was 60 cards. And you could see the back, it said, save these pictures, one ice cream novelty will be given free for each picture of Babe Ruth. So, out of the 60 cards that they give you when you bought your ice cream, if you got this card right here, you would turn it back in to get another free ice cream. So that's why these cards are so rare. You know, there's less than, I think there's less than 50 cards, for sure less than 50, maybe even less than 30 of these cards known out there to exist. And this is card number 6 of the 60 card set, which is Babe Ruth. And, you know, you can tell that this card came with ice cream because in the back here, you know, maybe that's possibly an ice cream stain here, maybe a fingerprint of somebody there that got some ice cream on their finger. You know, I mean, you think back, you know, these cards are almost 100 years old now. You know, 1928, they're almost 100 years old. And you think back, you know, who had this card, who owned this card. And, you know, that's what I love about the history of these cards. So card number 10 in my top 50 is the Harrington's Ice Cream. Card number 6, Babe Ruth, in a nice 3.5, nicely centered for those cards. All right. Moving to the top 9. Number 9 is a bigger card here, and number 9 is the top card in the 1949 Leaf Premiums, and that's the Babe Ruth color version, the blue. This card, this is the highest graded. It's a 1949 Leaf Premium Babe Ruth in a VGX4. This card can't really price this because this is the only one that exists in this condition. There are only, as far as I've seen, there's less than 5 of these known to exist. There's 3 versions of the Babe in the 49 Leaf Premiums. This is the rarest version. And from the history that I've done, from the study that I've found, I believe that this was the one that was in the last final high series or short print series of the boxes. And these are blank backs, but I will show you, just to give you, I did videos about this already. And like I said, there's less than 5 of these that exist. And most of them are destroyed in terrible condition, either with a pinhole or with tape on them or something like that. This is the only one that is, as far as I know, that's completely intact. And it's in a grade 4. And just quickly on that, I did a video on these if you want to go back and check it out, but I'm going to give you a quick tutorial. These came inside the boxes of the 1949 Leaf cards, not 48, not 48, 49, they're 49 Leaf cards. PSA got it right with the premiums, but not with the cards. They still put 48. But anyway, this is the top of the box of the 48 Leaf packs. And you would buy, the pack of cards is 5 cards per pack of your favorite baseball stars in each pack of cards. So this is the 48 Leaf cards that you know, the Jackie and all those cards would come in here. And this is the top of the card, so the top of the box. So it would say All-Star Pictures Bubblegum, right, from Leaf. And then this is where these come in. Free big picture of one of baseball's all-time greats to the purchaser of the last package in this box. So whoever bought the last pack of cards in this box would get basically the box topper, would get the poster that was in the box. And I've shown you the different kinds, but this is the rarest one. This is extremely rare, very difficult to price, but I put it on my number 9 of my top 50 cards. So the 49 Leaf Premium Babe Ruth, the blue version, is number 9. So now we're going to move on to number 8. Number 8 is another very rare card, and that is also from the 1888 Goodwin Champions, and that is the Beecher football. So this is the oldest football card, the first football card that exists. And this is graded in a 5. The highest graded of these, I think, is a 7. So this is one of the higher graded. And this is the first football card ever made. And this is Harry Beecher. Harry Beecher was a captain of the Yale football team. You can see that there, captain Yale football team. And you know, this history, guys. I mean, you're talking back. You know, who was the coach of the Yale team? Walter Camp. Walter Camp is basically the person who started football. So this was the captain, the quarterback captain of the Yale team. In those days, no pros. They were all. But check out the ball. They'd have to throw that ball, pass that ball. So this is the first football card ever made. The first football card. This is the history here. The first football card ever printed. And this is from the 1888 Goodwin Champion. This is the Beecher football card, the only football card in the set, and it's in an excellent 5. If you want to learn more about these cards, more about old vintage football, there was an excellent video done by Dead Guy Cardboard. If you haven't checked out Dead Guy Cardboard, I'd advise you to go check him out and go look at the video that he posted that's talked about the top 20 football cards in history. And you'll see the Beecher there. You'll actually see this Beecher because I texted him and said, hey, you got my Beecher on there. And he said this is the one that he found that was nice that he would put on his video. So anyway, that's the first football card ever, and that's the number 8 on my list, the 1888 Goodwin Champion Harry Beecher. And the number 1 valuable card as far as the most desirable card in the 1888 Goodwin Champions is card number 7, and that's the Cap Anson. This is just a beautiful card. This is one of the iconic cards in baseball. And this is one of the cards that are very, very rare. There's about 50 of these that exist, maybe 75 with both, but there's definitely less than 100 of these. And this one is in a 4, which for an 1888 card is a nice condition card, and it's nicely centered. And that is the 1888 Goodwin Champions, Cap Anson, first base for Chicago. Cap Anson, the number 1 player, the top player in the 1800s. Almost was kind of like a father of baseball. He went on to, he invented so many things. He was the first one to do spring training. And he did spring training because of King Kelly, because King Kelly drank a lot, and they actually ended up playing on the same team together. And to get him in shape, Cap Anson developed spring training and made the players attend spring training, plus a lot of other things that Cap Anson did. He is a historic figure in baseball, and if you don't know about him, you know, it's somebody that played a huge part in baseball. Some people don't like him because they say he's a racist. He was a racist. Different times, different things back then. But the bottom line is, as a baseball player, you have to admire the first person to have 3,000 hits, and became one of the top, was the top player back in his day. So that is the number 7 on my list, the 1888 Goodwin Champion Cap Anson. Number 6 on the list is Mickey Mantle. We're back to the Mick. 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle in an X-Mint 6. This is a beautiful Mantle, beautiful condition, nicely centered. left to right, maybe a little bit top to bottom, but a nice example of the Mick. This is my favorite, personally, this is my favorite Mickey Mantle card, the 1953 Topps. That's a nice example. Usually you get chipping on the bottom. This one has very little chipping on the bottom. Very nice. The corners are nice and sharp. Slightly off center, top to bottom. That's what gave it the 6. But look at that image on the Mick. Beautiful, clean card. Just love that card. It's at Yankee Stadium. You can see the pole back there, the advertising in the background. You know, to me, this is the nicest, the prettiest card, most beautiful card of Mickey Mantle, in my opinion. And this one, since it isn't next mint in a 6, you know, that's high on my list. That is basically a 5-figure card here. That's over $10,000 on this one here. So that moves up. That's up on number 6. The next card on my list is the Mickey Mantle rookie card, and that is the 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle in a 3. Now this one is nicely centered. It has only defect is like a water stain here, but it's a nice Mantle VG3. It's a Mantle rookie. Can't beat a Mantle rookie. That is pretty nicely centered. Those are real tough to get centered in a nice clean image. You know, so that is number 5. Number 5 on my list of my top 50 cards, and there's the back of the Mantle. No creases, corner's a little rough, but it's a nice Mantle rookie card from 1951 in a VG3. So there's my Mantle rookie, and we're going to move on to number 4. Number 4. Number 4 is my my best Babe Ruth card, and this is the 1922 American Caramel Babe Ruth. 1922 in a VG3. Slightly off center, left to right, beautifully centered top to bottom. Beautiful picture of the Babe holding the ball. This is from the American Caramel Company. This is the E120, 1922 E120. This is a lot tougher to find. This is a lot more ornate. You can see that than the regular cards. Nice picture of the Babe. But these are tougher to get, especially because, I'll show you right now, because this set is a huge set, and it came in caramels. So you can see here, this set is 240 players. 240 pictures of baseball stars, 15 from each team. Huge set. Less than 50 of these are known to exist, because out of 240 cards, to pull the Babe, and you get one card at a time, that's a tough, must have been a tough task back then. So that's why this card is so rare. But this one is again, the 1922 American Caramel E120 Babe Ruth in a 3. Beautiful Babe Ruth. That's my top Babe Ruth. And that's card number 4 of my top 50 cards. So yeah, guys, we're down to the top 3 cards of my collection. And, you know, these were difficult because a lot of these, you know, the Ruths and the Goodwin Champions, some of them have very, very low pop, very few sales, very difficult to determine values in some of those. But the one I'm going to show you right now is the most difficult of them all. They're basically are hardly any cards of this guy here. This is, and if you, again, look at the video that Dead Guy Cardboard did on football, and he'll tell you the story on this. Or watch the video that I did, my first video ever that I did, talked about this card. This essentially is the Babe Ruth of, I mean, not the Babe Ruth, the Honus Wagner of football cards. First of all, this was the first set of football cards ever produced, the 1894 Mayo Cup plug. This is the N302, the N302 Anonymous. And nobody knew who the Anonymous was because they didn't have his name. All the other ones have their name and their school right there. This card was pulled from production very early when they noticed that the name was missing. And nobody knew who it was because so few of them even existed. As far as I know, and all the research that I've done, there's less than 10 of these cards that exist. Less than 10. And that's from the pop registries. And I will tell you one thing, that this particular card was in a PSA holder. So this one has been cracked out and put in SGC many years ago. So there are going to be some duplicates there. So in my opinion, and as a fact, there are less than 10 of these known. How many? I don't know how many have been broken out. The highest graded of these is a 3. This one is authentic because you can see it's been colored. Somebody took a marker to that one. I don't know how long ago. But what I love about this card is the image. The image is perfect. I mean, you cannot get a better image there of John Dunlop. Nobody knew who he was until about 1985. With some research, somebody realized that John Dunlop was one of the best players back in the 1890s. And for some reason, he went on to be a coach and all that after that, but for some reason, he was left out of the Mayo Cup plugs. And that's the Mayo Cup plug. They took him out. They didn't put his name on the card, and they pulled it out of the, just like they did with the Honus Wagner and the T206. So this is one of the rarest, it is the rarest football card in existence. You know, and I don't count 101's manufactured rarities. I mean, this is true rarity. So tough to price something like this. You know, the other ones that I've seen, really their images are terrible, or they have creases, or they have marks or black marks and things on them, or the back is not nice, or it's missing, because this one, the back is solid. It's the solid black back. As you can see, you know, it's got a crease running through here, and you can see that crease here. And it has the, somebody took the marker to that. But other than that, the rarest football card in existence, less than 9 known to exist. John Dunlop, one of the top players from the 1800s, and the rarest card in all of football, of all football cards. That was number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list is my most valuable Goodwin champion, and that is Tim Keefe, the number 2 card on my list. And this one is in a near mint 8, impossible grade defined with the Goodwin Champions. Let me remind you, there are no 9s at all in the Goodwin Champions set. Not one card that has been graded in Goodwin Champion has ever come out to be a 9. There are no 9s. And as far as an 8, this is the highest graded Tim Keefe card in existence. This is an 8. Extremely rare, beautiful card, beautifully centered. I mean, you just can't get an 1888 card in an 8, especially the best pitcher of the 1800s, Tim Keefe. If you don't know Tim Keefe was basically like Cy Young and Christy Mathewson and Walter Johnson before they were around. Tim Keefe had over 2,600 strikeouts. He was a strikeout pitcher in those days. He was the top pitcher in the 1800s and the only pitcher in the 1888 Goodwin Champions set. Big time Hall of Famer, played for New York team, pitcher for New York. Beautiful card of Tim Keefe. You're never going to find another one like this. It's the best card known to exist from Tim Keefe of the 1888 Goodwin Champions. I'll give you another good look at Tim Keefe. It's just a classic card from the 1800s with the mustache, with the, the suit back in the day, with the cap. And the back, of course, is just a checklist in the back. But beautiful card. I mean, it's just the second, value-wise, the second card, most expensive card in my collection. The 1888 Tim Keefe in an impossible grade, an 8. I was just lucky to have that, lucky to find that card. And my biggest card in my collection, the number one card in my entire collection, and we'll go ahead and get it out of the sleeve right now, is, of course, if you've seen my videos, you know what it is. It's the most iconic card in all of baseball card collecting, the most iconic card, and that is the 1952 Mickey Mantle. And this one, even though it says authentic altered, it's not. This was re-examined by SGC, and SGC determined that it was just a minimum size card. So it's not altered. This came from the find that I talked about, and if you really want to see the history of this card, go back to my video, my 1952 Mantle video, and take a look at it. And I'll tell you the entire story of this card. This card is virtually mint. Extremely well centered for a 52 Mantle. It's just, corners are perfect. This is how it came out of the pack, guys. This card came out of the pack just like this. And I got it in the find in Eastern Pennsylvania of the kid who opened this card, this pack, and put it away. And it was finally found once he passed away. This card was found in that pile of 87 cards, and 13 of them were minimum size, and the Mantle was one of them. The Mantle, the Campanella, and the rest were common players, minimum size. It was a beautiful find, some beautiful cards. They graded high, and I think there was a Eddie Matthews rookie, and that even graded 6.5. But this particular card, I'll give you a good look at it. This is the number one card in my collection, the 1952 Mantle. You're not going to find many Mantles like this unless you're willing to pay millions of dollars. So I'll give you a good look at that card. This is the number one card in my collection, my 1952 Mickey Mantle. It's nicely centered. It's a beautiful classic pose of the Mick. This just happens to be a minimum size card. And this here, there's a little bit of thing here, but this is actually the, that's a slab. This little thing you see here, that's on the slab, not on the card. The card is beautiful. The only thing it has on the card, and I've examined it very, very carefully, and it's good that it has it, is, you see that little white dot there? That means that this is an original, because the version of this Mantle, all of them have a white dot here. And this is the version without the black line here. So that's the different versions of the Mantle. Let me show you the back of it. Back of it is, again, beautiful, beautiful, clean. There's the back of the Mantle, the 52 Mantle. Corners are nice and sharp. The #1 card in my set, in my collection, the #1 card in my collection is my 52 Mickey Mantle. I may get it, I just didn't want to reholder this. I don't want to risk any damage to this card. You know, I could have it reholdered in a minimum slab. The SGC said they would do it, but I just can't get the nerve to crack this card. If anything ever happens to this card, even though it has a little scratch on the slab, but if anything ever happened to this card, I just couldn't see myself cracking it out or having anybody crack it out. It's just too perfect. And like I said, if this was not a minimum size card, I mean, what would that grade? What would that have graded? That centering is just, you just don't find these cards centered like this, guys. There's a tinge left to right, but top to bottom is perfect. And it's the most iconic card of the Mantle. So anyway, guys, this has been a long video, but I just enjoy looking at the Mick. I could look at it for a little bit longer, but at this point, I'm already almost an hour into it. So I just want to thank everybody that has subscribed to my channel, everybody that's been so supportive. I mean, it's just been an incredible year for me. You know, I started this channel during some really rough times. It was, you know, in January, my dad had passed away, and I had a friend that passed away from breast cancer. And I had another good friend of mine that had breast cancer. And, you know, I was going through all those tough times, and, you know, just reflected back in my days. And, you know, these cards were in the safe deposit box, most of them put away there for such a long time, and didn't get a chance to see them. So I went through some depressing time. And as I spoke to my friend who had the breast cancer and talked to her, and she really motivated me to do this. You know, I felt that I was doing nothing with my life. You know, just kind of dwelling on the bad times and my dad passing away and all of that, and my friend had passing away from breast cancer, and her going through it. And thank God, thankfully, you know, she's gone through it. Went through chemo and radiation, passed all that, and now seems to be clear. So and I had another friend that also had to do a double mastectomy. So anyway, the reason I say that is because that's what made me get into this YouTube. You know, the people that motivated me to do this, and to, you know, just basically get off my ass and do something with my life. And this is what I decided to do. I'm so glad that I did it, because I've been able to make some of the best friends ever. And I've been able to really enjoy my hobby, enjoy my cards, get them out of that safe deposit box that they've been sitting in there for such a long time due to COVID and other reasons. And just, you know, enjoy the hobby, people. That's what it's all about. It's about enjoying your cards, pulling them out, taking a look at them. And just, you know, 50 years it's taken me to get this collection together. And, you know, my daughter said, you know, Dad, you got to share it. You got to share it. And I was motivated to do that. If you look back on my description of my channel, the reason I did start this is to hopefully raise money for breast cancer. So if anybody of you care to donate to breast cancer, please do that in honor of me and in honor of my friends that went through this horrible disease, in honor of my friend that passed away from breast cancer. I would truly, truly appreciate that if you would donate any money you can to that. It's a terrible disease, and it affects so many women and men, and it's just horrendous. So anyway, I'll move on from the depressing stuff and just take another last look at some of these beautiful cards so you can enjoy them. Like a John Dunlop. First football card ever. The Babe. Good look at the Babes. My favorite card. I just can't stop looking at this one. I just love this card. So I just want to thank everybody for everything that you have done for me. And there's not much more I can say, but just thank you so much for your support. And everyone that's helped me along the way, you know who you are. Anyone from Vince, a New York Yanks fan, that really promoted my channel, to everybody else that's helped me. And I can't name everybody because it just can't. But I admire you all. It's been an hour. And in the hour, I've shown you my top 50 cards. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Everybody have a Merry, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll probably do videos before that. I've been running a lot of videos lately, and I will not stop. But I just want everybody to know that I appreciate them and have a happy, happy holidays. Thanks, guys. My top 50 cards. My number one card, the Mantle. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. Everybody have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you.